Hey there, fellow pwners. Welcome to MasterofPwnage's Art of Total War. Today we're talking about futuristic machines from the medieval times, Ballista. We're going to get started with the strengths and then work our way into the weaknesses. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. The strengths. Strength number 1 is the main differentiator between this and onagers or lithobolos, and that's the projectiles themselves are extremely accurate and very, very quick from the time you fire. So from the time you fire to the time where the projectile is on target is about 3 seconds. So keep that in mind when you're leading, guys. It's very, very different than the onager and lithobolos where you click and you're leading by about 10 to 15 seconds depending on the distance to the target. That pretty much covers the quick, but as far as the accuracy goes, that's a key thing here. You're able to hit targets spot on, which means if you're at the right angle, you're able to actually help your friendly troops that are in melee combat by hitting only the enemy from an angle from the side or from their left or right flanks. So it's extremely effective at close combat support for melee troops, and it's extremely accurate at pinpoint targeting other artillery as well. The next strength we're going to talk about is the momentum of the projectile. So these projectiles are very, very large arrows, basically tree trunks with a sharpened end and fletching on the back. So the basic math is mass times speed equals momentum. The more momentum, the harder it is to stop. You can see it just trounces these guys. As soon as you fire and it hits that front guy, it throws everybody in front of him back. So he pushes one guy, that guy pushes 2 guys, that guy pushes 3 guys, and it's just a big mess for their line. If you impact them just before they hit your friends in melee, their line is completely gone and they're completely ineffective in their melee. Very good for support. Pretty short strengths, I know, but now on to weaknesses. These guys are very good, but very specific uses. But as far as their weaknesses go, we're going to start off with probably the worst one, as far as my opinion goes. They're very, very slow to position. If you don't get into the right position from the very beginning, you might as well ditch the ballista. Enough said about that, guys. You get the point. Very, very slow to move. Try to start in a good spot already. The next one's a huge one, guys. A low angle of fire. You can see here I've got an onager with me, or a lithobolos with me as well. Everywhere it's gray means that an object in the game is blocking it, or blocking your angle of fire, so you're just not going to be able to do it. So you can see it finally turns green down that entire street. If terrain is blocking you, it'll do that, where it'll separate out, and you won't be able to see the ring anymore. That's because terrain's blocking it, not an object. You're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities to shoot into really good troop positions that are just perfectly angled for you to decimate them. And the reason you're going to miss is because you can't even fire there, because the terrain is blocking you. If you've ever had that feeling when you're using an onager or lithobolos, you're going to get that a million times more often when you're using the ballista. So the only thing I can say is don't position too high, don't position too low, because when you're too high, you can't aim at a really close distance, and too low, you'll end up with the same problem, except you can't aim high enough. As you play with the ballista, you'll start to learn the better positions to sit it at, and where not to position them. Where the onagers typically would be very, very good at, does not mean that your ballista is going to do very well. You can see there, every time I fired into that position, it would hit that rock ledge, where those javelin men are now. I just couldn't get on target because of the low angle of fire, guys. It sucks, but that's what it is. It's very good at certain things, not good at others. Shooting over objects, it's not very good at. Another thing to talk about, speaking of the angle of fire, onagers and lithobolos are good at shooting into the woods. One, because they're inaccurate and there's more than one of them shooting at a time. Or more than one stone coming out of them at a time, so you get like 4 projectiles. If one hits a tree, it's not a big deal. You're still hitting pretty much on target. But as you see here, for every time I click into the woods to shoot through the woods at these swordsmen, I'm not going to necessarily even get an impact, because it's actually going to be impacting a tree well before the projectile ever actually gets to them. Even if you do hit them, it may have lost momentum by hitting into a tree, because you'll actually be able to see it like spin out and go all crazy when it like ricochets off of an object. You actually see here, I zoom in, and it actually looks pretty cool. It just embeds itself in the trees. It's pretty sweet. If you could find them and you get the chance, kind of look for it, because it's pretty sweet looking when you actually do have it happen. But try to avoid shooting in the woods for the same reason. You have a low angle of fire, and because of that, the trees are going to block your rounds. You're not shooting over them, you're shooting straight through them. So the deeper you're shooting into the woods, the less likely you're going to hit a target, and more likely you're going to hit a tree instead. All of this leads us to our last weakness, and that is Calvary. Calvary, as soon as you start shooting and they see those projectiles, they get eyes on target, they're going to see where it's coming from, and they're going to send all of their cavalry straight to you and decimate you. So be aware of that. Hopefully your team is aware enough of the situation and they're able to intersect the cavalry before they get to you, but just watch out for it. And there's not a whole lot you can do besides defend yourself with another unit. Well, I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope I catch you next time. Please subscribe if you haven't already so you get updates as soon as they come out. Catch you next time. Until then, pwn on.